It is quite late in Australia. They're currently digging up the road in front of my house, so make of that what you will. But I just wanted to quickly say about that vice presidential debate. It was really fun to pretend it was 2012 again. I'll say the standout thing about that debate was that it was civil. It was very policy focused. There weren't like deep personal awful attacks like what we saw in the last two debates. It was just a debate that was a debate. Let me just get out of the way really quickly. Who performed better in this? I think JD Vance absolutely did. I am a fan of Walz and I've liked him since he was picked as VP. And look, I just think he did not have a great debate in comparison to JD Vance. I think one of the problems that Vance has faced is that he is not the kind of guy who's going to enjoy campaigning. He can't like do what Walz does and like have like a heart-to-heart moment with a voter. He can't go out there, shake hands and be normal. It seems like every time we've heard about JD Vance in this campaign, he has come across as awkward and just kind of like a weird guy. Being on the campaign trail is when Walz is in his element, and it's when he comes across at his best. But it's when JD Vance comes across at his worst. But that was very much flipped during the debate. You can see, and this is not a dig or like some sort of attack at JD Vance, but like he went to Yale. He knows how to debate and he handles himself very well when it comes to public speaking. At least like when it comes to presenting his ideas and doing what it seems it was his only goal there, which was to make Trump's ideas sound less radical. And he did that well. I genuinely think he did. He has a demeanor that is very vice presidential, if not presidential, and presented the ideas in, I think, less hysterical ways than what Trump has done in the past. Now, I don't think that Walz collapsed, as it were. I feel like the last two debates that we've seen, Biden-Trump and then Trump-Harris, have been very high stakes and like borderline catastrophic, as it were. That first debate was so awful for President Biden that it literally ended his 50-year political career. Whereas the second debate between Harris and Trump was, I would say, a really solid victory for Harris because she essentially baited Trump into really weird, like, personal rants, getting really off topic and really just looking unpresidential. So we've walked away from the last two debates with a clear winner, somewhat of a beatdown, and I feel like we were expecting maybe something like that from this one. I don't think we saw a beatdown or a complete collapse. I think we just saw someone win a debate, as it were. Walz came across a lot more nervous and had a really rocky start, but I do think he landed it well enough that he didn't do too much damage to the top of the ticket, if any at all, really. Access to reproductive rights, talking about the 2020 election, and regulating firearms were where Walz really actually found his level, and I think did more than enough for this to not be considered a complete failure, as it were. But the main takeaway is just that it was weirdly nostalgic and comforting to see a civil debate at this level. Walz and Vance shook hands, I think, 3 times throughout. Their wives had a conversation afterwards. They were very polite towards each other. And it felt like something that American politics has been missing for quite a while now. The telling moment for me was when Walz described that there was a tragic incident in which his 17-year-old witnessed an act of gun violence. And Vance was very human in that moment, took aside, talked about how horrible that was, and actually extended empathy towards Walz, which is something that I can't imagine happening in any debate at the presidential level of these tickets. And yeah, you can talk about how, maybe that Vance is just like a more palatable way for Trump's like dangerous rhetoric, as it were. But I do think like the rhetoric itself really does matter, because if your leaders treat each other with respect on either side of the political spectrum, that shows people in the party how they should interact with each other. If the leader of your party tells you regularly that the other side are actively trying to destroy the country, that they're evil, that they're corrupt, and you treat them in such a way that is harsh, that is rude, that is abrasive, then they are going to follow your example. And I think Trump has set the tone for how we expect to interact with people on the other side of the political aisle. And that is with skepticism, abrasiveness, and really just outright hostility. So, look, being completely honest, even though watching this debate, the guy that I was supporting, he definitely did not win. It didn't feel like the end of the world, as it were. It felt like how we used to think about presidential debates is that people will present their ideas, one person will probably do it better, and it doesn't mean the end of the world if your candidate loses. Knowing that there are people in politics today who can treat each other with civility, and that after this era, we might even go back to that, pretty refreshing.